Hey you. Yeah, you. You've used this word before. I see you. No, just kidding, I don't see you, but me too, we all do. But this term has gained a negative reputation, often linked exclusively with those on the rights. However, I perceive the NPC meme as extending beyond political affiliations, highlighting how some individuals engage in scripted behaviors without deeply considering their worldview. You know, it's almost uncomfortable to think that there are people with absolutely no substance or soul on the inside. It actually reminds me of the Nirvana song, Dumb, which is essentially about feeling different from everyone else who seems easily amused by everything in this absurd, inexplicable world we live in. That is why I would say the NPC meme appears remarkably relevant, because it really describes a feeling deep thinkers in the industrial age have had. And when we are essentially cogs in a machine for corporations, thinking people to some degree feel like a robot, waking up, going to work, and sleeping without much variety, as though life is pre-programmed. And compared to other eras of history, there exists no context in which people can live together and have really unique relationships. There's no town gathering, no lord, no priest, no Sunday church, etc. I think the closest feeling we may get to that is if we are fortunate enough to have a large friend group at school or get along well with our coworkers. But in reality, no one I personally know feels like they have any real individuality at their jobs, because let's face it, we're all replaceable. Those who have recognized this emptiness in themselves also recognize that those who never will are the NPCs. When thinking about the first time I encountered people void of free thinking, I go straight to the education system, the American one at least. Regarding my own life, I was an anomaly because I preferred to hang out with the dropouts and independent kids who did worse in school than those who did, because I found their perception of the world more truthful. There were the cookie-cutter kids in my class who cared only about getting good grades and essentially prepared everything that they had to say to please and obey the teacher. And it was just a contest of who could look the smartest, but not about who had the most novel ideas. Whereas those who saw past the obedience schools taught, I felt, were seeing beyond the system, which was just starting to show its cracks about 10 years ago. I had friends who sadly suffered from drug addictions to cope with the realization our current world feels so meaningless, coupled with the lack of a coherent family structure and an abundance of intelligence most educators couldn't really satisfy. One of them used to fill up water bottles with vodka and show up drunk to school, not because they thought it was cool, but because they were so done at having to sit down and memorize pointless facts they knew would never help them in life. I know similar jaded smart people watch my videos, so if you have analogous experiences with your teachers or educators, please feel free to tell me in the comments section. I get that you want to stay away from mentally unstable people who risk being a danger to you, though the majority of my friends who didn't do well academically and suffered from these things were actually incredibly intelligent people who had just given up on making an effort. They didn't really see any value in the end goal, that is to say, finding employment for access to limited material wealth. Even I occasionally ask myself, is this it? I would have likely ended up a lot more destitute, but with the pressure behind me from my family to do well in life, I focused on school so as not to get in trouble. But I can't blame people for feeling this sense of doom down beneath. And regarding college studies, there was always a part of me that felt like, besides the act of leaving home to study something I wanted to, the added debt of college may not be as worth it as everyone told me. And even now, my mother seems to hint at how unfortunate people my age are, describing them as basically zombies suffering from a real lack of purpose in life, because the illusion they were fed as children is now starting to come apart. Degree or not, I bought into the mainstream idea of the American dream somewhat until I was about 18, when I realized, very astutely, that plunging yourself thousands of dollars in debt as a teenager was not a great investment if it didn't absolutely guarantee a good job at the end of the road. School was never really that difficult for me because all I had to do was show effort and turn in homework on time. Most of the actual education I got regarding facts and history was on the internet, watching free lectures on YouTube and reading books recommended to me by friends. This reached a peak in the middle of my college years when I first, though accidentally, watched conservative media. The very moment I dared bring any idea from Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, or anyone akin to them in the classroom, instantly made everyone hate me and cry the R word. The other R word. I didn't even fully agree with what they were saying, but because they had well-spoken ideas about various topics, conservatives, I found their rhetoric far more interesting than the unquestionable gobbledygook 99% of my school was regurgitating. I really couldn't believe that I was among the only people on campus to resonate with the idea that free speech matters more than allowing an ideology to crystallize and become the gospel. Slowly, my colleagues began speaking ill of me, and before I knew it, all of my friends were those from outside of the classroom. I don't feel a thinking person in good faith would vilify me for saying half of what I did, and it revealed to me the pure lack thereof where I was. Even if someone disagrees, the possibility you are wrong is always there, and thus the opportunity to engage in open debate is necessary. I didn't even feel I was right, but rather pissed off that no one wanted to talk to me because I dared think differently. By my senior year, I was living alone in a dorm by myself with no friends from school and was basically just getting by through the week, waiting to see my friends on the weekend. How education functions to create workers is simply beating the hell out of all risky irregularities in children so that they're ready to enter the workforce once they graduate. But this system is horribly antiquated, and at the time of its creation, conformity was valuable because the more people you could train to do factory jobs, the easier and more efficiently a corporation can manufacture. But nowadays, we are stuck with basically the same curriculum, despite few knowing what to do in the face of things like smartphones, computers, and now AI. Corporations want the most obedient cog in the machine to do their bidding, and the NPC will do exactly that by climbing the social ladder under the elite, adopting their viewpoints as the gospel, and therefore perpetuating the structure of modern-day society. It's pretty obvious the elite prefer conformists more than free thinkers because anyone who thinks outside of the box and recognizes the catastrophe that they have created will start to fight back, continuing to make everyone who doesn't prop them up their enemy. I've come across numerous overqualified individuals relegated to dead-end jobs due to the job market's reluctance to hire them for anything else, including the thing that they studied in school, if they went, that is. It just as young guys find themselves cornered